Good afternoon. Welcome to our brown bag session today. Today we have a fantastic group of people for you to hear from. This is our Women in Engineering Roundtable session, and you are going to get to hear from some of our amazing women faculty here at UTA. We're going to start off with letting each person introduce themselves. I'll have each person tell their name, tell their department, their position, and if they want to add a little bit about what they research in, that'll be great too. And I'll just call on each person so we can go through all the people who are here with us today. So I'm going to start with Dr. Diana Huffaker. So introduce yourself. You're muted right now, Diana, so turn your sound on.
Okay, thanks.
Now you're good.
I'm Diana Huffaker. I'm the chair of the electrical engineering department. I joined August 2020, last year, and I've been so happy here at University of Texas. I love the leadership. I love the students. It's a great place to be. Before I was department chair, I was a researcher. I helped build a research institute in the United Kingdom. Before that, I was at UCLA, where my research area was nanofabrication and photonic sensors.
All right, thank you so much. Now we're going to go to Dr. Jamie Rogers. I know she's surprised, so I have to cover for her. There we go, perfect.
Okay, I got it. I'm Jamie Rogers, and I am Associate Chair of the Department of Industrial, Manufacturing, and Systems Engineering. And I've been around UTA since '94. Before that, I was in industry since the late 1970s, before the turn of the century, a long time before the turn of the century. And my research area is mostly in engineering education, manufacturing, and logistics.
Thank you. And we're going to go now to Dr. Zainab Çelik from Electrical Engineering.
Hello, I'm Zainab Çelik, and I'm a professor of electrical engineering at UTA. I've been at UTA for almost 20 years now, and before that I was at Southern Methodist University. My field is nanoelectronics, nanofabrication, and sensors.
Thank you. And now we're going to go to Dr. Hanley Liu in Biomedical Engineering, bioengineering to say it properly.
Hello, I'm Hanley Liu, and I'm a professor of bioengineering. And I have been at UTA for 25 years. So this is really my career path to go from a PhD to postdoc and then to a faculty position. But in the last 25 years, I have been working with life science and clinicians from UT Southwestern and UNT Health Science Center in Fort Worth. So my research has been covering about medical imaging for cancer detection and then also for brain imaging. So right now my focus is really on brain imaging to use a non-invasive tools to look at your brain without hurting any of your tissues to understand the blood flow increase or blood flow changes during your thinking or when we are working on our, for example, homeworks. So thank you very much. That's about me.
You. And now to Dr. Melanie Sattler.
I'm Melanie Sattler. I'm Associate Chair and Professor in Civil Engineering. I've been at UTA full-time for 18 years now. Prior to that, I was an adjunct faculty member while I was working in government and consulting. So my area is environmental engineering, and specifically, I focus on waste to energy, so renewable energy from waste and air quality.
Thank you so much. And since I'm actually here, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Dr. Carter Tiernon. I am Assistant Dean in the College of Engineering. I work with outreach, I work with student activities. I'm also a professor of instruction in computer science engineering, and I've been here about 20 years as well. Prior to coming to UTA, I did work for a number of years at Texas Instruments, and I also taught algebra, calculus, and number theory to 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th graders in the Dallas Economic Empowerment Zones in South Dallas and West Dallas before I came to UTA. So I have a varied background. And to get us started today, we do have some questions that we've come up with, but we already have a question from one of our observers. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there, although I may be the only one that's directly connected to it, but I think everyone has something they could usefully say. So the question is, what do you think the root cause is for the underrepresentation of women? This is the question says specifically in computer science and engineering, but I think it applies across the board. Even though women have made such great strides in medicine and law and a number of other STEM fields in the last 50 years. So what do we think are some of the root causes for underrepresentation of women? I know what my opinion is, but is there anybody who'd like to join in and provide their view before I jump in and provide mine? I see Diana's got a hand up, and then Melanie. So let me take Diana, and then I'll take Melanie. All right, go ahead, Diana.
Yeah, first of all, it's been a long-standing problem. Women have fought for decades to find their way into science and mathematical fields. In fact, my great-grandfather was a professor of physics at a well-known university, and he refused to teach women. But then as we go along and more women are able to get into these fields, sometimes the opinions of society is that math is too difficult and science is, for boys, things like that. So it's been a long-going mindset. And sometimes women, I guess, when I look at statistics, it seems that women sometimes turn away from the scientific field as young as the grade school. So perhaps it's a matter of society marketing more to engineering and science fields for young girls. But don't you guys agree, other ladies on the panel, that this is a work in progress, that it's getting better because that pipeline is becoming more strong and more complete?
Yes, we're definitely working on it. All right, let's add Melanie to the conversation here.
So it's clearly societal, because there are countries where about half of the engineers are women, and they tend to be, surprisingly, in developing countries. There's sometimes an economic incentive for women to pursue engineering fields because they pay well. But there are several examples of countries internationally that have parity in gender in engineering. So it's clearly not an ability issue, it's a societal issue. If you look at toys, go in a toy store, you can see that very early on, we start treating girls and boys differently, right, in terms of their toy choices. And then it just goes on from there. Studies show that women that leave engineering, so say they start majoring in engineering in college and then they go to a different field, actually have higher grade points than men that go to another field. So again, it's not ability, it's do they have a welcoming environment in the classroom and so on. So it's societal issues, a lot of small things that can add up over time.
Thank you. So I saw Zainab and Jamie wanted to add something as well. So Zainab, we'll go to you and then we'll go to Jamie.
Yeah, I think I agree with Dr. Sattler that it is very societal, and I'm going to say that it really depends on family dynamics and the place of women in the family unit. Women have been considered a secondary family earner, wage earners, and men have been considered primary. And engineering relatively pays higher money than your average wage, and therefore it has been, women pretty much have been in a way excluded from it because it's a man's job. Now that is changing, obviously, and it will continue to change because there are a lot of women who are primary earners, and also they are maybe only earners in the family. And with that change, and it is bigger than only engineering. It is also, that's true for all primary earner careers. The same thing holds.
Thank you. And Jamie, go ahead.
Now that I'm really old, I think over the years, I've been in engineering for over 40 years. I think we need to really focus on the fun and let folks know how much fun it is to be an engineer. And goodness sakes, I go to work every day and I get paid for this. This is fun. But we also have to have good role models. We have to have someone in our department that looks like us. When I was going through school, I was often the only one female in the class. And if there was two, I'd look around and say, oh, who's that? We're very fortunate at UT Arlington in the industrial engineering field to have 10 women, 10 men on faculty, which is unheard of, to have 50% gender equity, as well as I think 37% folks of color. So we have really intentionally tried to make sure that we try to represent the diverse and inclusive backgrounds and make sure people feel welcome. It's really an interesting problem, but we need more people, more diverse folks trying to design new products. And as we go into the future, and as I get really old, people that are going to design neat stuff when maybe I need a knee replacement or a hip replacement or something. So we need lots more diverse thinking, and that can only come from diversity of our folks that are going into engineering.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm going to add a little comment, since the original question also specifically mentioned computer science. As somebody in computer science, when I went to school, there were actually about 30% women in computer science. And one of the reasons at that time was it was a very new field. Computer science is a younger field than some of these others. And there were no real preconceived notions about who could do this job. However, over time, perception has come about, particularly if you think about cartoons like Dilbert or shows like The Big Bang Theory, where granted they're physics majors, but they're doing computing, right? But if I were a girl growing up watching The Big Bang Theory, I don't want to be Sheldon. This is not something I aspire to. So our social and visible representations of engineering and computer science aren't diverse and positive enough. And I know that my colleagues have said the same thing. It is really critical for younger people to see older people doing what they're interested in doing, and doing it successfully. I love that we have this group here today as women representing engineering, even though we don't have as many diverse women as would be great to have on this panel, but we have some amazing powerhouses. So we had a question. I'm waiting for I asked them a sub question, waiting to see if I get a specific response back. while I'm checking for that, and remember, if you're watching and you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A. We are watching the Q&A. We do have some questions that we'll go through, but we would love to be addressing your questions. I can actually see that we have 35 people listed as attending today, which is fantastic. That's one of the bigger crowds that I've seen. It's now up to 41, which is amazing. So you 41 folks out there who are attending, we would love to have your questions, okay? So our first question overall was, what are some challenges and opportunities that face women today studying engineering? And I know you guys touched on some of that in answering the previous question, but I think maybe opportunities. Is there anything else we'd like to add about opportunities that women have today in engineering? And Diana has a fast hand up, so.
Oh,
Diana,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, so in electrical engineering, we've got a women's initiative that was supported by our board of advisors. You know why? And I've told our women in electrical engineering group that they want us to be creating these women leaders for their company. And so that's a big opportunity for you guys. Companies want to hire you. They want to promote you. Do a really good job when you're here. Get lots of hands-on experience. Learn your soft skills. Take advantage of all of the interview practice and resume workshops that are held, and get out there and impress them. But companies want to hire you. So that's a huge opportunity for you all.
Absolutely. All right, we haven't heard from Hanley yet, so let me get her and then I'll get Melanie. And Hanley, you're still muted, so go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. Okay, so in terms of opportunities first, I'm from bioengineering or biomedical engineering, which is a mix of multiple field. What I mean is, first of all, bioengineering is engineering applied to medicine or to biology. So in this field right now, we really relatively have a large portion of female students. And then we're not in industrial engineering to have a 50-50 female faculties, but we do have relatively a few good female faculty members who can serve as a role model. And then in the field, not only for the schools, but then in the field of as a job market, there are a lot of female scientists who can also serve as a role model to students. So the opportunity to our new engineer student would be that you will have less scary feelings to say, oh, I'm surrounded by all the males, and then am I good enough? So that's really good. And also, I think in a sense, females tend to have ability to have a good communication. So that's a good thing to learn new knowledge, because it's a multidisciplinary field. So you would be able to learn the new knowledge or multidisciplinary knowledge at site by having a good communication skills and things like that. The challenge is that really now in our field, we all have to keep learning. And then sometimes maybe some of our girls feel, oh, I'm not good enough, or should I try to learn to change the field or anything like that. I basically say, yes, you can. You just have to build up your self-confidence, and then you can do it. I mean, again, my field was in physics, and I switched to bioengineering by learning medicine through self-learning and then online and the communication and everything like that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Melanie, go ahead.
I think in terms of opportunities, there's opportunities for the profession, and then there's opportunities for the women themselves. So in terms of the profession, if you Google engineering grand challenges, so engineering grand challenges, you'll see a list of some of the really exciting and important challenges that engineering is facing these days. Engineering better medicines, as Hanley was just talking about, clean water, building urban infrastructure, and so on. These are also called the wicked problems. So they're things that a computer can't just crank out a rote answer, right? So they need people's problem-solving skills and creativity to solve. And so I think there's lots of opportunities for women to impact these issues through engineering. And then there's opportunities just for themselves to have a good career, right? So engineering jobs tend to be fairly stable, they pay well, it's a good way to support your family, and at the same time, have a job that makes a contribution and makes a difference.
Thank you. I didn't know if, did anyone else want to add to that? All right. So we do have another question that came up. I did want to add just really briefly in terms of opportunities in computer science engineering. One of the most amazing things about computer science is how much it supports everything else and how many different kinds of problems you get to solve with computer science. So if you end up in that field, you can do almost anything, and you can support colleagues in bioengineering, in civil engineering, and industrial, electrical, everything. So a computer science degree gives you so much cool flexibility and opportunity. If you like to solve problems, CS is a really good option for you. People don't always think of it that way, but that's one of the cool things.
Are we selling our different programs here?
I'm sorry, Diana?
Are we selling our different programs here? Because
sorry.
I think for EE, I would say the exact same thing about EE if that's the top.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Jamie wanted to add something. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, what I was gonna add is we're not really trying to push for our disciplines. However, what is going to happen in the future? I'm fortunate to have been president of the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, which is it's a huge accrediting body, non-governmental, but it is looking at globally accreditation for the baccalaureate degrees, and it's like over 4,300 programs, 850 institutions, 41 countries worldwide, and each discipline is working together more and more as we go forward. It won't just be a silo of mechanical or electrical or civil or industrial or bio. All of these problems, as Melanie said, are wicked. It's going to require working together with expertise from different disciplines, whether it's the power grid that failed last winter, or whether it's bridges that are on the teetering edge of falling down, or water, or bio, or all the chips that need to be made that are holding up progress for making cars. So, it's kind of an interesting, whether it's logistics or healthcare, it's all going to require working together with all our disciplines, engineering and computer science.
Absolutely.
And the other STEMs, the applied science and natural science. It's going to be all working together.
Yes, very much. I'm also just going to quickly mention before I go to the question, Melanie mentioned the engineering grand challenges. Another set of wicked problems is if you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So that's another set of big world problems that engineers can have an amazing effect on, and that are really critically important. So we have a really interesting comment that I hope we can get some feedback on. So the question says, I have read some research on the benefits of groups of women, such as a lack of need for a designated team leader. Do you find a difference in the way groups of women work versus groups of men? And Zeynep, do you want to start us off? Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. I think women work more based on consensus, communication, and then coming to a common goal and common action plan. We are more communicators than our male colleagues. So we also tend to more problem solution oriented, without, I don't know how to say this without, I guess I'm going to just say it, without our egos getting in the way. So, in a way, it is very different. In male-dominated areas, in groups or teams, things tend to be more direct and more voting based, as in majority wins the most. Whereas we would like to keep everyone in the same, try to keep everyone at least buy into the idea one way or another. As females, we try to build consensus.
Thank you. Anyone feel motivated to add to that right now? We have another really fantastic question up that I'm going to move to. All right. So thank you, Zeynep, for that. This next question it seems really important to me. So I'm looking forward to hearing what our panel has to say about this. So one of our students writes, I've had multiple people at UTA tell me that I should consider another major because I'm not naturally talented at math. Are they right? I do struggle with calculus, but I think everyone does. Anybody want to take that one? I see Melanie's got a big hand waving, so let's go to Melanie and then we'll go to Hanley.
Okay, so one of the myths that we need to debunk to encourage more students in engineering, period, is that you have to be an absolute exceptional standout in math and science to be able to do engineering. Yes, math and science are involved, but you don't have to be exceptional to be able to do engineering. You just have to be willing to put in the effort to learn the math and the science that are involved.
Thank you, Melanie. All right, let's go to Hanley.
My response to this is actually happening often in some of my students. They say, oh, I was not too solid in math, can I handle it? Now, I basically say, in theory, yes, you need the foundations for math and science. However, right now, we're not going to go through paper and pencil to derive everything. For example, Fourier transform. Even me, if you ask me to derive the Fourier transform from one equation to another, that will take some effort and then open the books and then going through that. But right now, there are so many tools, we use it. As long as you understand the principle, which doesn't require you to go through really mathematically step by step. But if you understand the fundamental principles, and then here we go, just 3 letters, FFT in MATLAB, that take care of all the everything that you need. So that's how I take care of my students who, in theory, have a weak mathematical skills. But on the other hand, if they understand the fundamental science concepts, then they can use the available tool. I mean, nowadays, just use a MATLAB as an example. There are just possibly 10,000 or even more functions you can use. And so the whole short answer is that, yes, you need the fundamental knowledge, but then the basic effort is like what Dr. Sattler said. If you make effort, you get the concept that you can definitely overcome the problem, but then you can invent the new knowledge according to what we need, meaning the tools are there. We just need to say how to use the tools and then invent the new knowledge in terms of engineering.
Thank you. Anybody want to add to that particular comment? I want to briefly say I'm very much where Dr. Sattler is, that math is an important foundational understanding, but you absolutely do not have to be an expert, and you don't have to absolutely love math. You've got to be capable. You've got to be able to understand, as Dr. Lou said, you've got to be able to understand the concept, but tools are available to help you apply things. So you don't have to be able to draw it out of your head and do an in-depth math equation on the fly. You have to understand when do you choose to use that math tool or this math tool or that math concept. And I think so many people are scared of math that they turn themselves off from the possibility of things like engineering because they are afraid of the math, where math can absolutely be conquered. And I really think that if you have the desire, that you can find the people, the mentors, and the tools that you need to be successful in the math that you need to get into engineering and be successful. So if you're out there and you still want some help with math, come see me. I'm more than willing to help you out. I don't care what major you are, feel free, get in touch with me. All right, so don't have any more student comments at the moment. I'm still waiting on more. Y'all are always welcome to add questions in the Q&A. So here's a question for the panel. Are there any special programs or activities that young women, and I'll include college students, can get involved in outside of class that you feel like will really help you succeed in engineering? Things that you suggest. All right, so I saw Jamie first and then Zainab. So Jamie, take it away.
I would definitely join your professional student organization, whether it's ASCE for civil, IEEE for electrical, ASME for mechanical, IISE for industrial. What did I forget? BMES for bio. I would definitely join that group because that gives you a common thread amongst your peers. You will be interacting with upperclassmen and meeting folks in your profession. There's also Society of Women Engineers, NSBE, SHIP. There's all kinds of organizations to join on campus. So I'm not saying just be a joiner or join everything, but join organizations where you are of like mind and maintain your professional membership for life, because you never know what networking is going to get. It's really tremendous when you're trying to change jobs or just ask questions about other areas of research. Networking is fundamental in life.
Absolutely, thank you. And Zainab, what did you want to add?
Yes, Society of Women Engineers is definitely one big thing. They do have career fairs once a year, and it is actually attended by also women. It is by men. It is not women only event. And IEEE for, of course, electrical engineers. And electrical engineering just started a Women in Electrical Engineering group. If you don't know about that and how to get in touch, please email me, Women in Electrical Engineering Group at UTA.
Awesome. So we have another great question, and I'm really looking forward to hearing y'all's answers from this one too. So this question says, was your career path different than what you had intended it to go? They say, I have heard from mentors that there are many career options that can derive from one degree. So I'd like to hear from whoever to tell us a little bit about their career paths. Who'd like to start us off? All right, Jamie, go ahead and start us off.
I'll start off because I may have had the most unusual career path. I started out as a music major.
Cool.
And got married after my freshman year. And my then husband was a mechanical engineering student at Georgia Tech. We lived in married student housing, and I was working full-time at the telephone company and going to school part-time. And at the end of the day, I would still need to do my homework and practice my French horn. And the guys would come over, and I say the guys because there were 100% guys that came over to study. They came to our place because we lived in married student housing, which meant we had food, we had a kitchen. And then they got their homework problems finished and went off to shoot pool or drink beer, whatever, have fun. And I still had to practice, and practicing is never ending when you're in music. So one night I declared that I think I'm going to change majors to engineering. And one of the guys just said, "Oh, right, somebody's wife's going to be an engineer?" I said, "Well, how tough can it be? You're doing it." It's just a natural response. So I changed majors to engineering, and then moved to another state, Missouri, drove 85 miles one way to finish my last year and a half, and graduated, and then came to work for Texas Instruments and thought, well, maybe one day when I get old, I might want to teach, because engineering is such an applied field. So along the way, I got my master's and PhD actually from UT Arlington, and got my master's in 81 and PhD in 85. And then lo and behold, when I got old, I decided, I think I might want to teach. I started doing adjunct work. I mean, I was very successful at TI. I was very happy. I wasn't looking for a job, but decided, well, maybe I should do an adjunct job. My mentor, Dr. Eleanor Pate, said, we need to get you involved. And so I came over, started teaching in the evening, and told the department head, hey, if anything opens up full-time, I might be interested. And then in 94, a position opened up. I applied and never looked back. It's been fun. But it wasn't really what I intended completely to do, but it was in the back of my mind thinking that one day I might want to give back and teach. So that's what I'm doing now, and it's all fun. And I still have, most of my friends at TI now are retired, but still have folks over there I know.
Cool. All right. Anybody else want to share right now? And it's okay if your career path was to become a professor. I'd like to know about that too. Zainab or Melanie? Zainab, go ahead.
Well, I would say I followed a fairly traditional path. I was not interested in electrical engineering. I was interested in physics at first. And I was interested in astronomy. I was interested in high energy physics. And but in my home country, which is Turkey, I knew I couldn't find a job doing that. So I started in physics and added electrical engineering, and I got degrees in both. And now what I'm doing is actually can be said to be electron chasing. So really the solid state physics, solid state electronics. And so I found the best of both worlds. And then my rest of my career was very traditional, assistant professor, tenure, associate professor, full professor.
Thank you. Melanie, you want to tell us about yours? Go ahead.
Well, generally in engineering, there are career paths in consulting, career paths in industry, and then career paths in government. So there is a lot of variety that's available, and there's advantages and disadvantages to each of those three kinds of tracks. But before I was in academia full-time, I spent 5 years in government and then a year and a half in consulting. So I worked for North Central Texas Council of Governments. Government positions generally pay lower than some of the other areas, but the jobs tend to be more stable. And there's the opportunity to work on projects that are of public benefit. In consulting, The hours can be longer, but the problems are very varied, right? So if somebody can't solve a problem themselves, then they hire a consultant, right? So there's a lot of variety in terms of consulting. And then I went into academia full time. But
cool. I know Diana's with us. I don't know if she's available right now, so let us know, Diana, if you want to share your story as well. I mentioned mine a little bit, but I went to work directly out of college, also at Texas Instruments, as a matter of fact, and worked. While I was there, I volunteered in a teaching program. So I did that for a couple of years. Then I met a mentor. Jamie mentioned a mentor early on. I did my doctorate starting part-time while I was still at TI. I did my doctorate here at UT Arlington also, and my mentor was Dr. Karen Harbison in the Computer Science Engineering Department. I met her because she was a consultant on the project I was on at Texas Instruments. So that's how I made that connection to her. After I finished my doctorate, I actually called the program I'd volunteered in as a teacher to ask for a reference, and they offered me a job. So I went and taught for that time. Unfortunately, my mentor passed away while I was doing that, but my second mentor was Dr. Lynn Peterson, who had also been on my committee. And I called her when the teaching job, the earlier teaching job, ended in Dallas. And kind of as Jamie said, I went to talk to the department chair and I said, hey, if you have a position, I'm interested. And I got a call back. And so I joined the CSE department and eventually ended up in my current role. And I would never have expected as an undergraduate that I would want to be a teacher. That was nowhere in my plan. And I will admit, a couple of our panelists have talked about women being better communicators, and I am the exception to that rule because I was a terrible, terrible communicator in college, awful. And I've learned, I've done better now as an adult, but when I was an undergraduate, I was the geeky computer science, put me in Dilbert comic. I was awful. So just to let you know that you don't have to be a great communicator. That's a skill you can learn too. So it's amazing all the things that you can learn that are both hard skills as an engineer, but also soft skills. So I see a couple of more comments. I also want to thank some of our attendees. There was a question about construction engineering earlier. Dr. Kermanashi was on and gave some information. We also have someone from the Associated General Contractors local chapter who gave some information as well about the Women in Construction group. So people in the chat are answering each other's questions, which is fantastic. So here is a question for all of us. So what advice would you give for those who do not yet have experience in the field and feel nervous or unprepared or not knowledgeable enough yet to be successful in an internship? What advice do we give our nervous, unprepared, not knowledgeable enough person? I'm going to give my first piece of advice. My first piece of advice is you're more prepared than you think you are. If you're an engineering major, you're doing okay in your classes, you are what they expect. They're expecting an intern. They don't expect you to know everything. They'll know what classes you've taken. They'll know where you are in your degree, and you will be fantastic. Now, one thing, I'll make one generalization. I do find women tend to underestimate themselves compared to their male colleagues. And so sometimes that expresses itself in feeling nervous or unprepared, whereas your colleague who's taken literally the identical classes that you have taken, made literally the identical grades, may be chomping at the bit going, oh yeah, I'm going to kill this internship. And the woman may be going, well, I don't know, we're still sophomores, I don't know, you know. So the difference is in how you perceive it, not in how they perceive it. But my advice would be, look to your colleagues and see how they're feeling, and give yourself that pat on the back. Jamie, go ahead, add on to that.
I agree 100% with what Carter was saying. You don't realize what you know already. If you can show up at class on time, show up on the job on time, that's step one. And for sure, they're going to know exactly what Carter said. They're going to know what they're getting into if they're hiring a sophomore intern, a junior intern. It's no problem. These folks that work with us have a long-standing relationship. So don't worry, you're going to be fine. And if you have any questions, reach out to one of us, one of your faculty members. We're here to help.
Awesome. Melanie had a hand up, so go ahead, Melanie.
One of the things, or the primary things that we teach you in an engineering education, is logical thinking and problem solving, right? So we can't teach you every possible thing that you're going to encounter over your career, right? And technology changes really quickly anyway. And so hopefully we give you in school a grounding in the fundamentals that you can use then to learn as you go throughout your career. And so the employers don't expect you to know everything when you start, right? But you have some logical thinking, you have some problem solving skills, and you have the ability to learn what you need on the job.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We have a few more comments. We're actually winding down. We're not done yet, but let me just make a note. Dr. Huffaker is not able to be on camera with us at the moment, but she's mentioned that there's a Women in Electrical Engineering meeting on Friday at noon. So come for pizza and community, and you can contact Dr. Huffaker for more information there. Back to a couple of questions from our observers, our watchers. First one says, regarding internships and or research, when do you think is the best time to start applying? So I can tell you what our internship and co-op coordinator has for our minimums, and then I'll pass it on to my colleagues. So Ms. Carol Coleman, who works for the College of Engineering, she's down in Netterman Hall 242 if you haven't talked to her. She's our internship and co-op coordinator. If you are a new student to UTA, she typically says for a freshman, you want to have 30 hours in your major and then start working with her to get internship opportunities. If you're a transfer student, she typically looks for one semester, about 15 hours here at UTA, with the same total hours of about 30 hours or more in the major in order to start looking at internship and co-op opportunities. If you're interested in that, make an appointment to talk to Ms. Coleman, because she is a fantastic resource for you. The other colleges here at UTA don't all have their own internship and career coordinator. I mean, the Career Center is also great, and Ms. Coleman works with that, but she is specifically for us for engineering, and she's got connections and she can help you get those engineering positions. So from our panelists, anything you would like to add, particularly if you'd like to add anything about undergrad research, whether you would have particular suggestions about when somebody might start looking for those opportunities. And Diana's back, great, go ahead. And she's unmuting, there we go.
Yeah, I think, and I think as soon as you have the bandwidth to do that, aside from your curriculum, you should hop into it. And the best way to start undergraduate research is to get to know some of the professors. You can go online and see who's doing what in your department and go to meet them, see if they're taking any undergraduate researchers. I know, again, in EE, we have an undergraduate research initiative, and so we're supporting undergraduates to go and work because it's really important that you guys do undergraduate research and have your internships. I encourage you to start attending your career fairs, even as freshmen. Of course, you won't be passing out resumes at that point, but you can start, getting the vibe and kind of listening to the conversations so you can be prepared when it's your turn. But certainly start thinking about your internships early.
Yep. All right. So another question, is taking a minor to further specialize my education towards a certain career goal a good plan, or will I end up wasting time that could be spent graduating and working? And Melanie, start us off.
Okay, so I'm the advisor for the sustainable engineering minor, so I will give you my biased viewpoint. I think that a sustainable engineering minor is a great add-on. We have it figured out so that for many of the majors, you can acquire the minor with only 2 additional courses beyond what would be required for your major, because we've figured it out so that courses in your major double count, or electives in your major will double count for courses that count for the minor. A lot of times, students may have a gap in their schedule, so they need courses that are only offered in the fall, and they can only find 3 courses in the spring, and they could use a 4th kind of thing. So that's a good opportunity to work in a course from a minor. And my thought is, if there's 2 equally qualified candidates and one has a minor and one doesn't, then the one that has the minor would have the leg up.
All right, anybody like to add to that? So,
Okay.
Jamie and then Diana.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I would say, like everything, it depends. If there's something that is interesting to you, like sustainability, or most engineering majors can get a minor in math with very little extra. Something that you're interested in and want to invest a couple of courses, goodness sakes, it's only 6 hours, 2 classes over the course of your lifetime. Yes, learning something extra is always a good thing. So I would say, sure, if there's something that interests you, I wouldn't just do it to say, oh, I'm checking a box, but do it if it's something interesting.
Thank you. And Diana.
Yeah, I wondered if the students are aware of some of the certificate programs. The College of Engineering has put a lot of emphasis on our certificate programs. So I know, at least in my department, we've rolled out 2 undergraduate and I think 4 graduate certificates, and we've got another undergraduate and 2 more graduate certificates coming online in the spring. But for those, you don't need to take any extra courses. You just kind of pick up these certificates along the way, and you get an extra, gold star on your head when you go to interview. So that's kind of a cool thing that's coming about. Oh, and the fast track. I think a lot of the departments have fast tracks from bachelor's to master's. And when I speak to my board of advisors, they like to hire students with master's degrees just as much, if not more, as students with bachelor's. You make, I don't know, 15-ish grand more when you graduate with a master's than you do with your bachelor's. And of course, if you go up against somebody for a competitive job, of course, the master's is going to win out also. And it's 1 more extra year of your life if you can tolerate it. I know when I finished my bachelor's, get me away from school. But of course, I got sucked into the research and went back later on.
Yes, I didn't do mine in a row either. I was like, I'm done. And then, of course, I ended up going back. I did all of my master's part-time.
Yeah. Well, so did I. But the fast track, if you get it done you do the fast track, you get it done in a year and you don't have to look up.
Absolutely. Let's see. Oh, the other comment I was going to make is sometimes you might want to do a minor if you have a passion that you may not see right now how it's going to interact with your major degree, but you have a passion for it, and you may end up later on finding out that they do interact. I know I've had students who were computer science majors who minored in political science or art. I had a business minor with my degree. So doing some of those things that you have a passion for, again, it shows that you're willing to put in time and be persistent on a goal, and that's valuable to an employer. They may or may not know why you would need your political science degree as a computer science major, but the person I know who did that became a sales rep for a technical company. So they're a technical sales rep, and they're really using all of those skill sets that they developed by doing their technical computer science degree and their political science minor. So I think at this time in your life, if you can take the opportunity and explore those interests and those passions, this is one of the easiest times in your life to do it. It's not the only time, but it's one of the easier times. And I agree that fast tracks are fantastic programs. And the opportunity, every one of our engineering departments with undergrad programs has a fast track program to their to at least one of their master's degree programs. So those opportunities are really there for you, and great. Okay, we are down to the last 4 minutes. Hanley, Dr. Liu did have to go to class, in case you were wondering where she went. So she had to leave early to go to class. But I wanted to give each of our panelists a little bit of time to just wrap up and add anything they'd like to add. If you want to talk about work-life balance, if you want to talk about special programs, if you want to talk about some other aspect that maybe we haven't touched on as much, or that you feel like we need to touch on some more, please feel free to do that. Let me, I'm going to give everybody a chance, I promise. So I'm going to start with, I'll go to Zeynep, Diana, Jamie, Melanie. That's last names. Oh, Diana says she's good. Okay, so Zeynep, Jamie, and then Melanie if she's got something. Go ahead, Zeynep.
I would say a lot of the questions that the audience put forward are related to caution. Am I good enough to do this? Should I get into this? Should I do a internship? How do I do that? Should I get into have a minor? I would say to all of those, just jump right in. Just jump right in. That's all.
Excellent. Excellent. Jamie.
I would say the same thing. I agree with Zeynep, but I would also ask you folks that are participants, the folks that are in the audience, maybe put in the chat some topics you might like to see, and maybe we can get together again in the spring.
Absolutely. All right. And Melanie, did you want to add anything, a final comment or two?
Okay, so I'll echo the jump right in. One of the best pieces of career advice I ever got was from my first boss. And he said to not be afraid to shoot from the hip. And what he meant by that was that I was used to over preparing, right? So read 3 chapters in a book to try to get ready for a meeting kind of thing, right? Rather than relying on that technical engineering training, the logical thinking and the background that I already had. So you know more than you think you do. And so just go ahead, jump right in.
Absolutely. And not to sound like a broken record, but I echo the same thing. Sometimes we, and women are more prone to this than men, sometimes we undervalue ourselves and we undervalue our knowledge. And we look at somebody who might be a little louder or a little more assertive or a little more aggressive, and we think they know more because of that behavior pattern. But they don't. We know the same thing. I don't know, particularly if you're out there, you may have a colleague that you think is doing, wow, they talk in class all the time, they do this, they do that, they must be an A student. But if you actually looked, they might be a B- student and you might be the A student, right? So it's not all about looking at only how someone presents themselves. So that's one aspect. But confidence without skill doesn't do you any good. It might get you in the door, but then you're going to fall flat on your face. If you've got the skill, and if you get through an engineering program, you have the skill, period. You got it. You made it through. Rely on yourself and put yourself out there for opportunities. Take advantage of opportunities. You may have to train yourself to do that. I had to, in my first meetings at TI, I had to train myself to interrupt people because the guys in the meeting talked over each other all the time. And I was a real polite little Tennessee girl, and I kept trying to get myself called on in the meeting. Didn't work. I had to literally train myself to interrupt people so that I could say something. And once I did, everybody later on would say, "Oh, so good to hear from you. Glad you spoke up." Because they didn't think I was interrupting. I thought I was, but they didn't think I was. So train yourself to match the environment you need to match. Depend on those skills that you learn. Trust in yourself. Trust in yourself. And let your mentors help you. If you don't have a mentor, come talk to one of us. We are here to help you, okay? You don't even have to be in our departments. We'll get you to the right people if you need somebody in your department. But come and talk to us. So it's 1:01. We're going to wrap up for the day. Thank you so much for attending. As Dr. Rogers said, if you've got ideas, you can put for a future session with women in engineering, questions you want to ask, put them in the chat or email them to one of us. And we would love to hear you, and we'll try to get back together again in the spring. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great afternoon. Bye, everybody.